Steffes Auctioneers with us. And Scott, a busy week coming up for you, isn't it?
Yeah, we're going to move into the fairgrounds for our ag iron program. The auction's a week from Wednesday, but short week next week with Thanksgiving. And, of course, if you go to our website, steffesgroup.com, you'll see all sorts of auction activity, whether it's selling land or equipment or all the other things we do at the Steffes Group. It's prime time right now.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things. And if people want to check you out online, it's very easy to do that, right? You've been selling land and equipment since 1960.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, of course, Internet's changing everything, and all the availability of the equipment and what we have for real estate coming up is just right there on our webpage. And, of course, we always talk about what it takes to be successful, and that's the planning part of it. So if you want to sell into this good equipment and real estate market, give us a call, stop by our office on Main Avenue, or there's all sorts of information on our website, too.
All right, very good, Scott. Have yourself a great weekend.
Talk soon.
You bet. Scott Steffes, again, they've been selling land and equipment since 1960. Check them out, steffesgroup.com. It's Friday.
That it is. My buddy Derek Hansen is my co-pilot today. How you doing?
Not well.
I know. Do you want me to talk about it or not?
We have to. It's like therapy for me right now. Oh, man, I tell you.
I know. Let's get to the voice of sports on the News and Views Radio Network, who knows exactly what we're talking about.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. It's like a big kick in the guts.
I wanted to roll out. It's funny, and Derek and I talk sports every day, as you and I do, Joel, and I just kind of wanted to lay a couch out for Derek in the studio yesterday, and I would sit there with a pad and a pencil, and Derek can just let his feelings roll out and get it out.
I was watching it in his office, wasn't I, D?
Mm-hmm.
And
we were yelling. People were wondering what was going on in the hallways. They're like, is everything okay over there?
I started using words like we and us.
Yes. Right. He was on board.
Personally involved.
Well, and I'm like, and then I actually apologized to Derek. I said, I'm sorry. It's not. And he goes, no. Jump on the bandwagon.
Come on.
There's room,
So and I had to. So forgive me without being able to follow all of it. I almost texted you guys yesterday, going because I was just wrapping up from the betting. I had some other work in Grand Forks, so I was coming back, and I knew that Barnesville had a lead because I was monitoring it best I could, and I knew that Chatfield. We're talking 2A semifinals, by the way, Prep Football, Minnesota. I knew that Chatfield, their quarterback, was ejected because of
he was not very disciplined. He had two unsportsmanlike penalties. Both earned, by the way.
Very earned. And you could argue, watching the game as close as I did, that he had three. Yeah. But that's a whole nother issue.
So
they kicked him out
in the third quarter, correct?
Yep.
And Barnesville at this time has a lead, I believe.
Well, then so the young kid came in, the sophomore quarterback for Chatfield came in, and he looked like a deer in the headlights right away.
Sure.
They fumble the punt. The punt snap was bad.
Okay.
Barnesville scores. They're up 18-8. And Joel and I are making plans for Black Friday. I mean, we're like,
here we go.
This young kid has no chance. They're going to dominate. Well, then he comes out next possession. It looks like John Elway reincarnated.
Wow.
And he just started slinging the ball all over. And, they were all week preparing for this running back type of quarterback, and then this kid starts slinging it all over them.
He hit the one deep one, Bones, and you've been around enough sports where something like that gives a kid confidence.
You're right.
And I looked at Derek and I went, he's feeling it now.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me nervous.
It takes games like what you guys just broke down so well. It takes that, and you can almost physically. It's palpable. You could feel emotion and pendulum swing. These games, the sports, and you could just feel it. And now all of a sudden, you are the one with your foot on their head. Now all of a sudden, you're flat-footed, and then eventually you're kind of heels, and then all of a sudden you're like, what just happened?
Well, and you start thinking as a player, you start thinking of what you don't want to have happen instead of what you want to have happen, and that's a huge difference in the mindset.
That's really tough.
I've had 3 games in my lifetime where I felt like the football gods did not want my team to win. That would be Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
Vikings, Atlanta.
Yeah.
Vikings, Saints. You have all these things, these 5 turnovers, and then yesterday because. And Joel and I watched it. There was like a couple of just missed plays that would have sealed the game.
Yep.
And it was like No, you're not going to recover that fumble. It's going to square it out again. Sorry. They get a new first down. It was just weird like that. It was just so strange how that took place.
We had a double fumble at their 5, and it was ours. I mean, see that? I'm doing it.
Joe's still dropping an hour in a week.
He is now getting his mail in Barnesville.
A week and an hour.
Trojan fans are like, listen, Heitkamp, we were there all year. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I come to the grocery store and that's it. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sick to my stomach really for the kids because I see these kids, and obviously Chatfield works very well too. They're a good football team, but I see these kids go in and lift weights at like 6:37 in the morning.
Barnesville had them,
and I just feel bad for the seniors because if they win this game, they have a really good chance next Friday, no matter who they face. And good luck to West Central Ashby area
they're
today.
In action. That's
they
right.
can get there, and they defeated Barnesville the first game of the season, so we know that they have a quality team too. So good luck to the Knights today.
I always look at that too. Yeah, West Central Ashby is in action today at 11:30 this morning at U.S. Bank Stadium. Yeah. Sometimes, and we've all, if you've played sports, you've suffered loss. You've had something in your life to suffer loss. In the grand scheme of it, looking back, those are the days, not to wax poetic here, but when you look back, just having that feeling makes you feel somewhat alive. Now, granted, your feeling today is one of just
sick to the stomach for the kids.
Tough,
I mean,
but
I feel like an embarrassment of riches. I mean, to think I've said this often to think that this is now routine to go play in the Viking Stadium, not a dream for when I was in high school. Right. It's really something for Brian Strand and his staff and all the kids that work so hard. But they just right at the palm of their hands and just couldn't. And Joel will tell you. They won 46 minutes of that game. I mean, there's just...
that was the most frustrating thing to me. And it was like, no, we played, Barnesville played better. They did. It's just a flip of the coin here and there, getting beat on a long pass. The other thing I would add to all of that is that when you get an opportunity with a turnover, you got to take it. Turnovers will win or lose big games.
And you got to finish, and I think that's the one thing that the juniors and below, you got to learn how to finish.
Something I tell the girls, though, involved in a lot of activity or myself or teammates, it is better to have been involved in it.
Yep.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Than not, even as much as it hurts a day after.
Those kids are going to talk about it with their kids and their grandkids, and they're going to be able to take someone to a Vikings game and say,
that's right.
Dad played right down there.
Here's where we didn't seal the deal. No, you wouldn't do that.
No, one of my good friends, his son had 2 touchdowns on the Vikings team. I can't say that. I mean,
come on, right?
It's really cool.
Kitson County Central didn't fare as well either. Leroy Ostrander shut them out 40-0. Other local, Becker fell to Casson Manterville in 4A. Derek had mentioned West Central area Ashby in action today. Also, Fertile Beltrami. In fact, they're 40 minutes away from their kickoff. That's a 9 a.m. kickoff today.
Go Falcons.
Against Hills Beaver Creek. And the New York Mills is in action tomorrow at 11 a.m. State volleyball was going on, gang. It was the quarterfinal round. Matty put a little English on it. Was hanging out. I wonder if he went to the big boy. I wonder if he got it flying stuff.
I text Matty during the middle of the game last night, knowing that he doesn't look at his phone, but I told him, great job. He had me. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I do not exactly sit in my pickup and listen to volleyball a lot, but he had me doing it.
You got to hang out in my Aviator a little bit and listen to some volleyball.
It was fun.
Volleyball junkie. I'm going to make you a volleyball junkie, Joel. You're going to be a volleyball junkie coming up.
Well, all right. I'm in because, quite frankly,
you were locked in.
I'm there. He had me last night.
Semifinals are set for today, gang. In the Class B ranks, Linton, HMB, and Thompson. This is going to be... I'm not kidding you. This is just going to be an all-out knuckle grinding, girls swinging, blocking, setting, bumping, pancake, all that stuff that happens in a volleyball game. That's at 5, and then Northern Cass is the number 1 overall seed. Well, they beat Garrison in 3 straight sets. They've got Kenmare. So what happens when a Jaguar meets a honker?
Yeah,
we'll see tonight.
I'll bet on the Jaguar.
Okay, and then the Class A side, 1 o'clock is the semis. West Fargo versus Bismarck. And then Century, who's obviously had a lot of success. They've got Shanley. These 2 teams are well storied in Class A volleyball. But, it's all good. UND hockey tonight. How do you like your UND and Duluth?
Oh, man, what a series this is going to be.
Another rock fight.
You remember the last time they squared off?
Yeah. They played 2 games in one night.
5 overtimes. That's right, Derek. So, and then you got 2 this weekend. So that is really big. The women's basketball. I was in Grand Forks yesterday. Here's what happens when Doug Lear and Dan Michaels in the morning ask me. Doug Lear tells me yesterday the day before, says, if Maggie Manson hits a 3, I want you to broadcast it in French. And I said, seriously, Doug? So, of course, I'm loyal to my colleagues, and my coworkers. So let's take it to the better yesterday. 3:15 to go. Manson a 3. Un, deux, trois, oui. She buries a 3. Maggie Manson from downtown. Again, see, I'm loyal. I count. That's 1, 2, 3. By the way, French.
I had that figured out.
I know. Dan Michaels earlier didn't. He just said. I think he said, "Way to go!" She hit a 3. I was like, well, not really all that, but so that's all good. College football over the weekend. Selection show, Joel and Derek, as you know, is Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And we'll find a lot of things out. Now, NDSU obviously is in, but where and what seed will they be in? They've got one more in the regular season. South Dakota is the game tomorrow at 2:30. Harvest Bowl, Senior Day, all the celebration. UND is in South Dakota State. This could get intriguing.
Yeah.
If they beat the Jacks, do they get the playoffs?
Outside shot, Joel. I think some things have to happen. I think you're rooting for teams like Western Illinois to pick off Northern Iowa. The question comes to mind: will they take 6? That's a big number out of the Missouri Valley. If UND beats SDSU and SDSU gets in, the pollsters say, well, Northern Iowa lost and UND just beat South Dakota State. So if we let the Jacks in, you got to let UND. There's a lot of things, Joel, that's involved.
Swanee was talking to you yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm eavesdropping.
He feels that they did.
He thinks they take 6. So.
He thinks they take 6. So if that's the case, but Paul Ralston made a good point earlier today. What was it in 2015 where UND had an FBS win, had 7 wins, and didn't get in.
Yeah, that was bad.
That wasn't brutal. Right. No. Remember, we were all kicking.
Yeah,
that wasn't right.
That was just a brutal. So you never know what works. And
when that gets released, I will have it on the airways during the Vikings game. So we'll see if they make it or not.
And you guys saw what I did last night. As if the day wasn't long enough, I finished it off perfectly. Saw my first musical.
Oh, nice.
Really?
Guys and Dolls at South Theater.
Oh, excellent.
It was phenomenal.
It's fun, isn't it?
Phenomenal. I can't wait. Let's go. When's the next one? I think Bonnie and Clyde over at Moorhead today, I think is going on this weekend. I think West Fargo. I'm musical
I went to The Lion King on Broadway.
Yeah.
Kicking, dragging, screaming, didn't want to go.
What happened?
Well, she found out I liked it.
Yeah. It's outstanding.
We do want to thank DJ Coulter for bringing me this therapy session for Derek.
Thank you, DJ.
Call DJ Coulter for a quote today at American Family Insurance.
His knives, I'm taking away. All right, get in here, Bones. Let's visit some more. He's showing me clips, ladies and gentlemen. By the way, you can check us out on YouTube.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Straighten up. Comb your hair. Ready?
Nathan Detroit. That was your Nathan Detroit. You know, he's trying to put together a craps game.
Yeah.
And going to put it at this garage at Biltmore and all that. And then you got Sky Masterson.
You're into this now.
Sky's the big high roller. And it's kind of a love story. Nathan Detroit has been engaged for 14 years to Adeline. And the Adeline character played by Natalie Evenson. Phenomenal work that she did.
Is that who you just showed me on video?
Yeah. I'm
She
like
was
J.J.
talented.
Gordon. I'm like a cultural guy, and I've slipped into J.J.'s role here. So Sky,
come on, don't insult him like that. As far as knowing the theater and everything. I mean,
okay, there's like you went to one musical.
Yeah,
Seriously,
exactly.
I invited JJ to a football game once, and he said if it was the Tonys, maybe.
So money's involved here, and then Sky Masterson there, who I believe was played by Marlon Brando years ago, if I'm not mistaken, because I think Nathan Detroit was played by Frank Sinatra. Correct me if I'm wrong, Derek. but
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, they have a little $1,000 bet, and Sky's trying to get the mission, the very virtuous Sarah. That's the bet, $1,000 if he can get her and take her to Cuba to do a little gambling. And then she's of course virtuous. She's not, she's anti-gambling. So then there's
That's the whole plot.
$1,000 bet. You give me a marker, and if I need you to show up at the mission, they're trying to save those souls. Yeah, it just.
Can you sing any of the songs?
Nope.
After last night?
Luck be a lady tonight.
Luck be a. Uh-oh.
Hey.
You heard this one last night, Bones? This was at Fargo South.
Yeah.
Can people still get a ticket?
I think so.
that's Frank there.
Oh, the dog.
Can I just say this? That alone right there is why Frank Sinatra is better than Bing Crosby.
That's right.
That's right. There's no comparison.
Nice call, Derek. Look how quick Derek. I'm that happy. Derek's going to, when are you playing with children? I can get this done.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I know that we took a lot of calls this morning when I was referencing Guys and Dolls at South saying, get out there, get a ticket. It's all weekend long. Bonnie and Clyde's going on to Moorhead, so get to Moorhead and go to that.
To Moorhead.
These kids.
That's like mentioning one game, right? Then all the appearance from all the other towns are going, yeah, we got a game going on.
Here's the deal.
Also, I would add this, that there's still tickets to the Concordia Christmas concert. I went online yesterday.
And that's but here's the deal. Were you nervous? Were you ever in acting or anything in high school?
I was.
Did you
for
ever,
one play.
Did you ever get to kiss a girl in a play?
Oh, in a play? No. All right, we'll be back in a
hold on to
second.
that thought.
Welcome back to the News and Views Radio Network. By the way, we are now on YouTube. That's right. You can check us out there. Go ahead, take a look. You can see what the studio looks like. And $20, $20 is what we're charging for every person that says you got a face made for radio. It's only $20. So my point is, we know it. You don't need to say it. I have feelings too.
All that money goes to?
All that money goes to me. How's the charity? No, it goes to me.
We talk about there's so many things going on this weekend, but I want to get this plug in because one of our coworkers' nephew is the main event. And across the street from where our studios are here in South Fargo at the Avalon Event Center, we got a little little fights going, MMA, fighting returning to Fargo.
Yeah.
And so Greg, his nephew, Cameron,
Greg's a competitor himself.
Yeah, very good at the taekwondo. Yep. He has a lot of disciplines, I think, that he has grown up with, black belts and taekwondo. But his nephew Cameron is the main event. So there's a lot of fights on this card coming up tonight at the Avalon Event Center.
I call Greg when I go to some of my old hangouts. You know, I say, Greg, just come with. just come with.
But people say that teach that say, I teach you these so you don't have to.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes, that's Mr. Miyagi type of thing.
I get that, and they're right, and they're more disciplined than I was.
But if you bust a railroad tie with your head, you're going, okay, that's good enough. I'm not going near that.
That discipline does not favor redheads. That's what it comes down to.
Clark City was Ledgewood, Rossville was Hankinson, and when you went to New Effrington, it was all in.
Yeah. It was
us against South Dakota.
You didn't want to handle the state line club in my neck of the woods back in the day.
That's right.
Something was going to happen.
So give me. Each one of you. Ready?
Yep.
Give me 3 reasons why Green Bay is going to win this game. Go.
Green Bay. Well, first of all, you got 12.
Yeah.
And he's
the best quarterback, if not one of them.
He can get things done. I think, is Bakhtiari...
I'm not sure if he's back or not. But I think it comes down to this Dillon kid. Can they stop the run? The Vikings have had trouble stopping the run this year.
Because Jones
out.
So
that's 2.
There's 2. It's tough. Obviously, there are more, but I don't know how fresh Green Bay is, Joel and Derek. They have, everybody's had a bye, and Green Bay has still got a week or so away before a bye week. So I think this is a Vikings. I don't want to say blowout, but this is a Vikings. Wow. This is Vikings to me all over. I think Green Bay's a little. They're due. They're tired. I think they're just due to get knocked around.
3 reasons, Derek.
Well, obviously the quarterback for the matchup, it favors they got one of the greatest of all time on the other side. So I don't think there's Devontae Adams too balancing that out.
And his core, yes.
And Patrick Peterson looks like he will be back, so that's good news if you want that matchup. But
Harrison Smith back, right?
Yeah, and there's that. Although I'll say Harrison Smith, he got a contract extension. This young man, this Bynum kid, he's making plays.
I said that this week.
Yeah,
I'm like, you know what? Just because he's your horse doesn't mean you got to play him.
Now
you can keep him in the stable.
Maybe have Harrison Smith out there with him, and put that situation out there in case I'm not sure about what's a former Cowboy. I can't think of his name right now. Who's a little iffy sometimes. Yes. The other safety, but
is he a safety or is he a corner?
He's a safety.
Okay,
and so it's going to be interesting. They need to without that pass rush with losing. I think. No doubt losing the defensive end has just been a tough thing for the Vikings, but maybe DJ Wanham and these guys can step up. It hasn't shown up
as bad as last year, though, with Weatherly.
You're right. I mean,
it hasn't.
Yeah, I think when you look at Daniil Hunter, what he brings to the table, he's always a threat, but maybe Everson Griffith and DJ Wanham can be hassling
Wanham's
Rodgers
better
all day.
than Weatherly was.
Yep.
Of all the games, Minnesota, and I know this has been Derek's beef, and he's right, and your beef, and you're right. Of all the games that I want to see Mike Zimmer and the Vikings put their foot on the gas and keep it on the gas for 4 quarters offensively now, this is the game I want them to do.
And here's my 3 why the Packers could win, right? Obviously, we all have the same number 1, right? Yep. Number 2 is I think the Green Bay defense has gotten better as the year goes on. I do. I believe that they've gotten tighter as the year goes on. Also, it's the way they coach, the way they approach the game. They go all in. Now, here's the 3 why the Vikings are going to win.
Okay.
Number 1, Kirk Cousins is way underrated this year. He's having a very, very good year. And I know people get mad at me when I say that. They're like, he checks off. Number 2, Zimmer came out and said that this crap of being conservative ends. You saw that, Derek, right?
Yep.
Okay, now I need to believe it.
Show me.
Talk is cheap.
You got to start doing
Exactly.
Missouri. Show me.
Talk is cheap.
Number
Show me
2,
straight.
that if somebody would have told me that Adam Thielen 2 years ago was going to be the number 2 receiver, I would have said, you're nuts. He's the number 2 receiver now. Jefferson is the number 1 receiver. And I believe that if you are going to beat the Packers, you got to be able to run against them. I think you can run against them, and we've got this guy named Dalvin Cook.
And you got another guy behind him that's not bad either.
Now, Derek, what I want you to do immediately following what I just said is delete everything I just said so it can't be used against me on Monday.
Well,
Right.
how many times do I say balance? I mean, they have to have it a balanced attack. It can't be run to set up the pass. Sometimes it has to be vice versa, and that's the approach they got to take.
And those little things in games, you get a ball back. Why does it always seem like the Vikings? I know they're not the only ones, but if you get a ball back with, say, minute 12, and you're on your own 21,
I just
and
got
then they just kind of. They play. You don't want to make a mistake, and I get that. You don't want to have a turnover. You don't want to get a strip sack fumble. You don't want to. Totally understand that. But why does it seem like the Vikings just all the time go to that just capitulation?
Yep.
Of, well, we'll just go to the locker room. This is why I said not here.
Not
I
here.
want to see JJ go deep.
Yep.
I want to see a flag come in on a PI.
Yep.
Want to have a spot fall penalty right there. 2 more plays and push in the end zone or get 3. I want to see that for the Vikings.
When you throw the ball deep, everybody always thinks, okay, when you throw the ball deep, that you can get picked off. Okay.
Yep.
Yes, you can. I agree. You also could have him catch it.
Yeah.
You also could get pass interference.
2 out of 3 things, right, Dave?
Yeah, right.
They're good.
That's 2 out of 3 are good things, right? Now, and the 4th thing that is good that never gets talked about is now they know you may throw deep.
Yep.
By the way, the NFL, this came out, as you guys saw, the NFL sent a memo to clubs this week reaffirming its crackdown on taunting and insisting
Thank God
that it will continue until players change their behavior. It is. So how bad has it been in your estimation?
I would rank it on a scale of 1 to 10, an 11.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of that. Refereeing high school and college as much as I did, if you did any of that, the flag would go 20 yards in the air. I mean, I hate that. Go in the end zone, celebrate, do all that stuff. But when you stand over a player and you basically taunt, it should be one and done. See ya. Have a good day.
Mario Edwards Jr. video comes in a clip. Bears defensive end stands over and points a finger at Aaron Rodgers after putting him down.
Bull.
There's also T.J. Watt ran in the opposite direction of his opponent before celebrating, and this and that. And there's just a lot of this stuff going on, and the NFL is not going to. They're going to be with you.
Yep.
They're going to crack down. You're going to see penalty. You're going to see penalty.
I always remember, and you guys are going to remember this name because we're not that far apart. There was a lineman for the Bison named Mike Favor.
Yep.
Remember that name? One of the best Bison players I ever saw.
Spanky was phenomenal.
Right? And I know the name of the young Bison running back. I don't want to say his name, but he scored a touchdown as a freshman. And Mike Favor was the first one in the end zone to meet him after he was doing this big-time celebration.
Right.
And, he thought that Mike Favor was there to jump with him, to high-five with him. Mike grabbed him by the shoulder pads and looked at him and said, "We're the Bison. We act like we've been there before."
Yeah.
And he set him down.
Yeah.
And I always tell my grandkids that.
That's a great analogy. Bubba Schreigert always says the last thing you should do at the end of a play is hand the ball to the official.
Exactly.
That should be the end of a play on that. However,
I got in big trouble on that once, by the way.
In celebratory fashion, that exalt. I get it. Act like you've been there before. What have been your, in memory, your favorite celebration?
I know exactly what mine is. It is
Golden Richards and Butch Johnson for the Cowboys.
Oh, I thought you meant when you were playing ball.
Or that. But
for me, we won my senior homecoming game in overtime against all my cousins.
Yes.
And I didn't know that my sisters were home from college, and they ran out on the field.
Oh, yeah.
And I turn around, and there's all my sisters and
now that's
their
a celebration.
That's good.
And I just remember it because I thought, I didn't even know you're here. This is so cool.
That's a great story.
That was. And I always thought, Mel, Hall, those people that ran out, thank you. You made my day.
That is fantastic. Didn't the Washington, at that time, the Redskins, if we use that at that time, didn't they do
They
something?
had the fun bunch.
The fun bunch. That's remember they threw like fake grenades and then everybody fell over.
Yep. Do you want to talk about total hypocrisy, though? I just said the way you should act.
Right.
I have a hat with moss on it where he's mooning the Green Bay crowd. I do.
That only doesn't apply to your team.
Yeah, it doesn't apply
your
to
team
my
can do
guys.
that. It's the
Funny
other
how that
guys.
works.
It's funny, yeah. When we come back, the bad news for you folks is more of the same right here on the Mighty 790. Kind of makes you want to get the flowery shirt out.
First thing I remember, I would do it. Oh, I thought that was
Who sings this?
Paul Simon.
Let him.
Hey,
That's cold. That is cold.
It's a good thing we've known each other for 40 years.
Let him.
It's funny because I just made my CD compilation.
Derek's still upset. You can tell.
He's back off, man. I'll be singing in my car. I'm driving to Brookings later today because of the South Dakota State game. So I'm so excited because I made my CD, my new list of songs.
Oh, yeah.
I could sing in the car. This is the small things in life.
That's what I love about you. You know, you can download all these things to your phone now, you know, and still play 'em.
I go the old.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd had a cassette player.
In fairness to Bones, very few people use their phone as well as what you do.
Right.
I mean, you do this, that, whatever.
Capture.
Right. He gets little videos for me. He sends me up from the road. You do use your phone.
Right.
I was wondering, you know, I see this a lot in Minnesota prep sports. I don't know if it's like Star Tribune guys or people asking the question, but they rank like the greatest nicknames of the teams in various tournaments. So I'm curious, of the top 3
Ooh.
like high school nicknames in Minnesota, in North Dakota, and in South Dakota of high school mascot nicknames. What are they? Because I was referencing in Northern Cass plays the Kenmare Honkers today.
Yep.
Honkers is pretty good in North Dakota. That's a good nickname.
Oh,
I love it.
It's
Yeah.
a great nickname.
Is it a top 3?
And I would be
don't know.
very happy if a Jaguar got it.
That's right. Jaguar probably going to get the Honkers.
You know, the honkers take a while to get up once they're deciding they're flying.
Yeah. Did you hear me this morning? Good. You don't want to be a honker around the Heitkamps on a hunting. But the Spuds are there.
Spuds is unique. The squirrels are unique, right?
Squirrels
I
are
think I
unique.
thought Gophers was cool.
Yeah.
I did.
I didn't yesterday when Chatfield was playing Barnesville, but yeah.
Right, the Chatfield Gophers.
Oh, let me think. You know,
But there's the schools that aren't here, like the Air Rifles. It was a good nickname.
the Rutland Rockets.
Yeah.
I don't know if that.
So I don't know if you'd put the top 3 nicknames. Text Club is open at 35270. You get 7 points for each correct answer.
Yeah, which
So are we
one?
looking for best or unique or both?
I think
That fits
one
that fits where we
outstands-
live.
The categories are fits the town, fits that particular area, the uniqueness of it, stand out of
in
it.
Kenmare, you are in the fly zone.
You're a honker.
I mean, I realize the fly zone changes. Doug Lear would say that if he is here right now.
Right.
But Kenmare was known for waterfowl hunting. People came from all over the world.
Right. Like Detroit Lakes has a pretty good nickname for their school.
Yeah, perfect.
The Lakers. Yeah. It definitely fits.
Yes.
Now, in fairness, Northern Cass hasn't seen a Jaguar come through in a while.
And I don't know how many coyotes we had running around Williston. Probably a couple.
Oh, no.
Do we have
There's
a few?
coyotes?
Oh, we
in
do?
Will- Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, I didn't
That's
know.
a perfect nickname.
Well,
for
the
Williston.
DGF Rebels just came up in that conversation, by the way, because there's not too many, I don't know how many Rebels.
Well, and Hankinson Pirates.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, of course, you've seen how many.
You don't see pirates in Elsie?
Well, that's exactly right.
Arr.
I was on Elsie once with a treasure chest, and
no.
these 2 guys came over. And not necessarily how it represents the town. That's part of the equation here. Maybe we can judge on it, but the uniqueness and everything that comes
See,
in.
somebody, St. John's Woodchucks.
I think it's Woodchuck. I think
Woodchuck?
it's singular.
They put an S on it. Sheldon Shadows. I don't think that fits
Really?
your criteria, though.
But that's great.
yeah.
I could hear a Pat Benatar song introing this team, the Sheldon Shadows.
I like
Whitman
that.
Weasels.
Who?
Whitman Weasels?
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Well, where's Whitman?
It's by the candy store.
All I know is I grew up with nickname Trojans, and I went to Bemidji State and Beavers, so I had a lot of jokes all throughout the years.
Can I?
How was your existence?
We can reverse that, though, and say, okay, what was the worst? Right?
Well,
Here's
best,
one for
the
you.
best
Ready?
might be the worst.
But let's be honest. The Tower City Clams.
I don't know.
That was it.
Okay, but again,
But I like the Absaraka Crows.
that is good.
Yeah.
But that Tower City Clams, that could be so bad it's good.
Well,
It would be bad. It would be.
it was funny. Brock Nelson was on, former UND standout now with
Yeah.
New York Islanders, and they were talking, with all the nickname controversy we've had over the years, and they talked about Warroad, and because Warriors could be like Winona went from having a Native American mascot to like just a gladiator.
Yeah.
He said, well, yeah, there's a lot of talk about it. Then Henry Boucher said, no, we're keeping it the Warriors.
Yeah, right.
Okay, sounds good.
Be the Warriors.
Whitman is north of Michigan, not far
That's
from
it.
Hodak headquarters, which Matt Hodak, the Dakota Dutchman, the polka band.
Yeah.
That's what they're talking about
That's
there.
it, Whitman.
Newell, South Dakota Irrigators.
Hello.
Another one. That was pretty good.
The Irrigators, their
New
football.
Salem Holsteins. I mean, you got to have that.
How do we forget that?
Beulah Miners, they both fit.
I've seen those Irrigators play football so good in the trenches. See how much fun we
They just water down the opponents.
Oh, they really, right?
They just water.
Oh, man, it is getting
All right,
bad.
quick pick. Vikings, Packers, pick it.
Vikings by 17.
Derek,
The Vikings lose on a last-second field goal.
Are you still,
you
gotta
so
get out of this
negative
funk.
today.
Yep.
Jeez, it's going to be, I'm scared to pick. It'll be.
It's Friday.
Don't you love that voice? It's like being back in the saddle again, right?
It is
my
old
friend
school back here.
That's right. It's absolutely good to have you with, Amy Eiler.
Thank you.
How you been?
I've been good.
How are those two kids doing?
Yeah, we're just in the thick of cold and flu season and
really?
COVID season.
But they're both out of diapers now.
No, the one is making her way out of them.
Oh, okay. So we're at that phase.
Yeah, we're at potty training phase. Yeah.
Okay. Well, see, pretty soon you're done buying those. How do you beat that?
Yeah, pretty soon. Yeah.
And then are you saving up for college? Because that happens really fast.
Yes, we are. A shout out to the College Save program through the Bank of North Dakota. That they both have College Save accounts, and we've been quite active with them.
Good.
For the first couple of years of your life, and this is a pro tip, you don't want to get your kids all that stuff. They already have toys, they have clothes, they have diapers. There's a link you can send to grandma and grandpa that says like, hey, you can just online donate to their college save fund instead of buying them stuff.
That's what I do. And Sue and I talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
They're going to remember the little, plastic thing that got thrown away way less than they're going to remember the check I'm going to get them when they turn 21.
Yeah, 100%.
Plain and simple. So we've got work to do. Ted Priester is in the house. He is the executive director of the Red River Basin Commission. Ted's a man that understands water, how water moves, how we can build infrastructure. Ted, good to have you back on News and Biz.
It's always a pleasure, Joel. Thanks for having me. Water.
Water. Here's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you. And we're going to get to the conference in a little bit.
Okay.
But I think that people don't realize, and I've been focusing on infrastructure. I don't think people, if they don't physically see it, I'll give you an example. You drive down I-29 right now. There's a great big project going on that you can see. Agreed?
Agreed.
That you guys have been involved with. You've been part of all of that, right?
All of those things.
But if they don't see it, normally, they don't see some of the watershed areas. They don't see where you're stopping flooding in other places. I mean, infrastructure is so key, Ted.
There's 44,000 square miles in the Red River Basin. And so, yeah, there's lots of things happening all through those 44,000 square miles, but you don't see very much of it. That doesn't make it any less important that we continue to do it smartly and make sure that we're spending money as wisely as we can.
When I go to Williston, I go to my friend's house, and you can see how the water was managed there. You can see how the town was protected, and if you know what you're looking at, you can see some of those watershed areas where it's been managed quite well.
I live down in South Fargo, so I'm driving by pieces of that flood protection every single day, and it just is amazing to me how much work it really takes.
Yeah. I want to talk to you a little bit about how much money is going to go into this, how much money is already going in. Give people some numbers so they understand how big this is.
Well, the diversion isn't my thing, but we're talking billions of dollars for the diversion, and at the same time, we're talking billions of dollars for the Red River Valley water supply. And that's all Fargo. Granted, we're a key part of the economy of our state, but that is only part of it, and we're talking too much water and not enough water. We got to be able to look at how can we do things. This was a great year for really bringing that to the front with the drought and all of those things. How are we doing it better? When we make a flood control impoundment, do we think about could we save that water for when we don't have water? I'm not sure we're there yet, but I know it's happening.
If you could tell the listening audience one thing, just draw a picture in their mind of one of the projects that you've been involved with that they don't know about.
Oh, so that's an easy one.
Okay.
This year, at the mouth of the Red River, the Netley-Lebo Marsh is no longer really a functioning marsh. It doesn't do what marshes do, clean the water and store water and do all of those things. So this year we did a pilot project the Basin Commission led there in Winnipeg. We moved 40,000 cubic meters of silt out of the river and created vegetation shelves in the marsh area, which is really just a big muddy lake. And now we're seeding it. We just seeded it last weekend, and we'll spend the next couple of years figuring out, is this going to be a technique that works for making the marsh healthy again so that we can address flooding issues and water quality issues in the lake of the river, or mouth of the river.
So what you just described to me is two worlds getting along, though. I mean, that's what's lost in all this. Many times people say, Oh, that's just for the environmentals and, you're hurting farmers or, I mean, what you just really described is good for both.
That's exactly what we're trying to foster in all of the things we talk about is spending money wisely to get multiple benefits that do all the things that we want. So that, natural infrastructure or resilient infrastructure planning, those are really key factors for how we spend money better.
Okay. So I've been to a number of your conferences where all these, for lack of a better way of putting it, diverse people. It really fair?
Very fair.
Right. And there are a lot of people who came into your world on your board and have come to advocate for this or that aren't living in the same mindset.
Yeah,
I don't mean that in a bad thing. And then what they do is they end up going, whoa, okay, I get it. I understand. So the ducks and geese can have this, and yet I get flood. You know what I mean? It's just a different.
That's exactly what the Basic Commission strives to do: is find synergies, find diverse interests, and how do we work them together to accomplish more than either one could do by itself.
Ted Priester is our guest. He is the executive director of the Red River Basin Commission. You've got a conference coming up?
We
right?
do have the conference coming up. We're really excited to be back in person in Grand Forks in January, 11 to 13 January.
How is it working with such a big part of what you do being based out of Canada during this COVID?
So that's the trick. We were supposed to be in Winnipeg this year, and I'm really disappointed that we had to move. But the border crossing and the virus testing that is required to get into Canada made it so cumbersome that we were going to lose way more participation. So we moved, and there's a lot of talk going on that they're going to remove some of those testing requirements to get back into Canada, and we're hopeful that will happen before January so that we do get full participation.
So the Canadians can come down to
well, they can now, as of
November.
But
it's a
$250 test.
Exactly. I was waiting for you to say it. So, when is the conference going to be?
So the conference is 11 through 13 January at the Alara Center. In partnership with the Canadian, of course. But we have a great agenda shaping up. We're still getting a few pieces filled in, but we have two panels that we're really excited to hold. John Jaski from the Minnesota Board of Soil and Water and Andrea Travnik from the North Dakota Department of Water Resources. And we're not sure who it's going to be from Manitoba yet, but they're going to do a panel on what's changed in water management over the last 2 years, because really we've all sort of been insulated for 2 years. So that panel is scheduled. And then Commissioner Peterson from Minnesota Ag, and we're still working on Commissioner Goring. We think he's going to be there. And then a deputy minister out of Manitoba are all going to talk about how did drought impact ag this year and what's the way forward? What did we learn and how are we going to do better in the future?
Well, I hope Doug makes it. I mean, I'd like to see North Dakota part of that conversation. You want to talk about how diverse North Dakota is. You go through South Central North Dakota. I mean, Sarah Heinrich's been telling people about this. I mean, it was all or nothing. I mean, it was all or nothing. I mean, these guys, they didn't get the crop they could because there was nothing. And then all of a sudden you got 7 inches of rain in one day.
It was so spotty. Yeah, crazy. And we're hopeful, but Commissioner Goring's a really busy guy. He's a great partner, and he's very supportive of us. But,
I know where he lives.
Well, he also has to travel on other missions as well. So
I know, but we just need to work it.
Well, he said in my
joking.
November meeting, he's a great partner. I'm not going to bash him at all.
No, I'm not bashing him. I was just joking. But I know Doug. He's a great guy.
But it's a great opportunity to really talk about the future.
Absolutely. All right. Can public attend?
Public can attend. We'll have our website will have the agenda listed for when those sessions are. We will be doing some virtual aspects, and we will post recordings of the sessions afterwards, so those things will be available to everybody.
You have an absolutely fabulous staff too, by the way. Great people.
I have great people. We have a brand new conference coordinator. Really excited to welcome Stacy Lundberg.
All right, Ted, thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. When we come back, John Bullis is going to join us. John is on the board of the Chahinkapa Zoo, but first we head into the weather cave and find Too Tall. Tom, what's the forecast? me and told him to say hi. But I worked with John back in my water days, and I got to tell you, a more honest and better man I've yet to find. So I'm curious to question him because I know I can trust him. John, good to have you on News and Views.
How you doing, Joel?
John, you're on the board of the Chahinkapa Zoo, and there's been a lot of talk about it this week. It lost one kind of accreditation. So the obvious question is, how are things going at the zoo? Do you support the staff that you have at the zoo? I have to ask you.
Absolutely. The things are going well at the zoo right now. It's the same zoo as it was before the accreditation issue. And the staff is very supportive of the board, and the board is very supportive of the staff.
See, and I wanted to make sure people had a chance to hear that. John, that zoo has been such a big part of my life and many others. I took my kids there. Now I'm taking my grandkids there. I think at times people might hear one thing and then think it's way different than what it was. So my question is, as a board, what are you going to do here? Are you going to do more of this? Are you going to talk to folks and make sure they understand about the zoo?
Well, absolutely, Joel. The zoo has been around for years, and it's always been one of the best run zoos, not only in the local area but in our larger region, and it continues to be. There's no issue as to animal care. Whether we support the staff, absolutely. There's two issues I think that are going on right now. One of them is the Aza Accreditation, which came as a surprise. We had been through an inspection here this past summer, and everything came out perfect. We were told by the inspectors, clear sailing, no problems. But we didn't get reaccredited. And, I think that there were I know why that is. Whether it's the true reasons or not, I can't state. I wasn't on the accreditation committee for the AZA. But the decision not to appeal the non-accreditation was a board decision, and it was unanimous by the board. That wasn't Kathy's decision. She had some input. She talked to the board members about it in a meeting, and we decided unanimously not to appeal, that we felt that we needed to go a separate way. And I had my reasons. I'm sure other board members had theirs. But I think it was the right decision for Chahinkapa.
So can I ask you this, in terms of the employees that came forth and didn't say flattering things about the zoo, and the employees that no longer work there, what does the board feel about that? Have you addressed that? What do you think about that?
The board hasn't met on these specific allegations that were arisen this week. Now, one of the parties had contacted some board members 5-6 months ago, and the board did look into those allegations at that time, and we did take some action. The action that we took was, I've been on the board for 2 years, Joel, and I felt when we received a text from one of these parties and followed up by a letter that we should look at the whole system, and we did. As a board, we made some changes to it to try and make it easier for the staff to contact board members or directly to Wayne Byer, the Parks and Rec director in Washington, if they had complaints or issues.
And that worked?
Absolutely.
Well, there we go.
We haven't had any issues since that I'm aware of, and there are board members that meet regularly with the staff, both as to if they have personal issues down at the zoo or if they have issues with respect to animal care. The two board members one is experienced in owning a business and employees. The other is Dr. Tim Matz, who is a veterinarian that's provided care down there for years.
I just want to say this because I do know Kathy and I do know a lot of their staff. I've been there. I've done radio from there. Mm-hmm. They care. I mean, to in any way say that they don't care about the animals, that isn't going to fly with me. That isn't. I know how passionate they are about the animals they're in charge of. And so it shows. It shows in your zoo, John. So I congratulate you for that. So it's good to know she has the support of the board. Appreciate you coming on and speaking to it.
Absolutely. You have any other questions? You just let me know, Joel.
Okay. John Bullis, ladies and gentlemen, on the board of the Chahinkapa Zoo. When we come back, we're going to talk about deer heads. Yep. We're going to talk about deer heads. We're going to talk about how we can help our game and fish, and how we can help the agencies that oversee hunting and help each other, right? We're not doing enough of it right now. And more than anything, that's why I wanted to visit with Dr. Charlie Band. kind of feel bad because I didn't do what I'm going to tell you folks to do. After I shot my doe, I took it over to Fairmont Lockers, and had I thought better, I could have taken the head off and delivered it to North Dakota Game and Fish. But Charlie Manson is our guest. Charlie is he's Dr. Charlie, quite frankly, and what we're talking about is deer in Minnesota, deer in North Dakota. And where we're going at when it comes to deer and the research that needs to be done. Dr. Charlie, good to have you on News and Views, sir.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate the chance to chat with you guys.
I want to talk a little bit about, the brain disease that people are talking about and how we as hunters can help you. If you would, just speak to that a little bit. Sure,
yeah. So our concern, in several parts of the state, but recently in the eastern portion is related to chronic wasting disease. It's this brain disease of deer, and it's pretty slow moving, both across the region, but even within a deer, it's quite slow moving. But it's invariably fatal. So deer becomes infected, and then about 18 to 20 months later, it always dies. But the challenge is that for most of that period of time, that deer can spread the disease to other animals. And what we know from research, across the country is that in areas where your infection rates within a herd become high, you start to see some pretty significant impacts on the population and the age structure. So in North Dakota, we have it in some portions of the state, but we're trying to do everything we can to keep our infection rates low where we have it. And what's really critical is to detect the disease in areas early. And so the reason, we're concerned in your portion of the state is because just a few weeks ago, Minnesota DNR announced that they found a positive whitetail buck in really a new area of the state near Climax, Minnesota. So, we pretty much assume that we've got the same deer herd there along the border. Unfortunately, those deer don't respect the state lines very well. So, that caught us by surprise. And the next step in a situation like that is to really try to get more information. And the way we do that is by trying to test a lot of hunter harvested deer. So especially in Unit 2B, there's about 2,100 deer licenses issued, and we've got a few days left of the hunting season, but we're hoping to try to test at least a couple hundred deer from that unit. And unfortunately, after about 2 weeks, we're only up to 53. So, Joe, I won't give you too much grief, but other people, if you still have a deer to harvest, if you have a deer in your garage, we'd really ask that you consider getting that thing tested. The way to do that is we've got 3 different collection sites out there. One is at the diagnostic lab at NDSU in Fargo, one at the Phoenix in Hillsboro, and then one at the TSC in Grand Forks. And so you can stop by there, drop off the head. There's instructions there. And then alternatively, if it's an animal that you want to keep, like a nice buck that you want to do a Euro mount on, for example, we do have a biologist at the Phoenix there in Hillsboro from 10 to 6 on Saturday and Sunday. So you can stop by and he can take a sample and you can be on your way.
Okay. So you can still keep the head. It's, you want to do the mount, you can do the mount. Let me ask you this, Dr. Manson. How long can the animal be down before the head isn't worth anything to you?
Actually, this time of year, we could really take anything. It can, one of the problems with that, with this disease is it's extremely resistant to degradation. So, the disease can remain infectious for years afterwards. And the good thing about that is that it also remains detectable in a deer head. So, for quite a long time. So really any deer head, unless you put it in a hot car for a couple weeks, if it's still available, it was harvested in the last couple of weeks, we can probably get a usable sample off of it.
Okay. When you say 2B, that isn't my zone. So now I don't feel as bad as what I did before, Doc. But unit 2B, for those people, most hunters know where 2B is, but other people who are listening to you don't know where 2B is, but they can tell their son or their daughter, or you know what I mean?
Sure.
So describe to people where 2B is.
Yeah, 2B is actually a pretty large unit right along the Red River there. The southern border is Highway 46, and then the northern border is Highway 2. And then, let's see, the western border is Highway 32. So, really any deer harvested in Unit 2B, but especially if you're close to the Red River, especially if you're hunting on the east side of the interstate, those are deer we really would be, able to get a valuable sample from.
Can I ask you this? Can you go to the butcher shop and get them? I mean, in my particular case, I'd take mine to Fairmont Lockers. I mean, can the Tim Phalens of the world, can they pull up there and say, hey, I need all the heads from 2B?
Yeah, we actually do work with meat lockers quite a lot. And unfortunately, this announcement from Minnesota DNR kind of came so late that we weren't able to make arrangements with the meat lockers over there. But yeah, the only thing is that we do need to make sure that the information stays with the deer head. So after the meat locker bones out the carcass and everything, we just need to make sure that a tag stays with that deer head.
Okay.
So if you are dropping off your deer at a meat locker, you can just chat with them and see if you can get that head back and drop it off at one of our collection sites.
You also said that this can pass through to other animals. Are we talking about cattle herds? What are we talking about here?
Sure. Yeah. One of the fortunate things about the disease so far, as far as we know, is that it's pretty well confined to cervid species. So deer, elk, moose, mule deer, whitetail. It can transmit between those species fairly readily, but there's a pretty strong barrier to other species. So, cattle or livestock don't seem to be able to get infected by this.
Okay.
So that's definitely good news. Yeah.
What about coyotes eating off the carcass? Any problem there?
Well, that's sort of an interesting thing. We do know that the disease can travel through the digestive tract of scavengers, and it remains quite infectious afterwards. So scavengers can actually contribute to moving the disease around. They themselves probably don't get infected, but one potential way to move this disease to new areas is from improper disposal. So if you harvest an animal that's positive that you weren't aware of that it was positive, but you move it 100 miles and bone it out and everything ends up in the rock pile in the back 40, that can serve as a source of infection for really years afterwards, and coyotes and scavengers can consume that meat and even spread it more. So that is one of the problems with the disease, and one reason that we have some transportation restrictions in areas of the state where we do have the disease.
The one thing, Dr. Branson, that people are thinking right now, listening to you talk, is the deer sausage, is the pepper sticks, is the jerky going to be good then?
Yeah, great question. The long answer is that we don't know that to our knowledge, nobody's ever become infected from eating, meat with chronic wasting disease. But that risk can't be completely dismissed. And so the recommendation from public health experts is that if you are hunting in an area where CWD is known to occur, you should try to go ahead and get that animal tested and wait for negative results before consuming that meat. That recommendation is sort of more from a sense of, caution rather than a known risk, but it is one that's out there. So if you're hunting in like 2B where we, there may be a chance, it's kind of just another reason to get your animal tested. One thing I'll just say too is, quite often I talk to hunters who harvest animals that end up being positive, and they say, well, I don't understand. That was a perfectly healthy looking buck when I shot it. And that gets back to the fact that it's such a long course of disease. So a lot of these animals, most animals that are positive, or look and act perfectly healthy. And had you given them another few months, they would have started to develop that, overt sickness. So just keep that in mind. There's no way to tell if your animal has CWD except by getting it tested.
Let me ask that question a different way, though. I mean,
Sure.
you love wildlife. I mean, that's kind of your calling. If you had harvested a deer and you'd taken the deer head in and you found out the deer head was positive, would you still utilize the meat?
That's kind of a personal choice. I personally sort of live and breathe this, and I'm a bit paranoid about things, so I would not. But I'm the guy in the state who makes that phone call to hunters every year, and I can tell you that, we chat about, the risk and unknown risk of the situation. And some guys in North Dakota are comfortable with just consuming the meat, and other guys are not. So, I hate to really give you a strong answer one way or the other.
Okay.
I personally would not, but it's sort of a decision based off of what your comfort level is at.
Sure. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I just
that's all right.
know the folks who are. I want to get Larry on with you. He's been pretty patient. Larry, you're on with Dr. Charlie. Go ahead.
Yeah. The question I have here is I hunt in like Unit 3E2, which there's no baiting due to the fact of that CWD. My question is kind of like, okay, if you can't bait, if you do bait in other units where you can get probably 30, 40 deer coming in at a time, what's the difference between baiting and maybe 200 deer in a field during the winter? Isn't that about the same? Because you got all these deer together, which is the same as baiting, basically. Can you answer that for me?
Well,
Sure. Thanks for that question, Larry. Other portions of the state where we have CWD, one tool that we have to try to reduce how fast it spreads amongst a herd is by restricting the practice of baiting. And that's a hard thing for a lot of guys to accept, understandably. One question that commonly comes up is, deer yard up for portions of the winter. You can certainly see a big herd, February, for example. And we don't pretend to say that that we control that, but the concern with baiting is that a lot of times that'll start in August and go September, October, November, December. Essentially prolonging how fast or how long these unnatural congregations occur. So for add 4 or 5 months where unrelated individuals are coming into close contact with each other, both directly and indirectly. So, animals having nose to nose, but also, coming to a pile of feed and sharing bodily fluids. That's all pretty known, established way to, potentially spread this disease faster than it otherwise would occur.
okay. So one more time, you need deer heads from, in particular, Unit 2B, and you want them to take them where?
Yep, three drop-off locations over there. One is at the NDSU Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, which is off of 19th Avenue. It's to the west of the interstate rather than to the east if you're going to campus. The other one is at the Hillsboro Cenex, which is right off the interstate there. And then the final one is at Tractor Supply Company off of the southern exit of Grand Forks.
All right. Keep doing what you're doing, Doc. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the chance to chat.
You bet. Dr. Charlie Manson, ladies and gentlemen, from North Dakota Game and Fish. Let's go find, and by the way, the bucks must be in full rut because I just got a picture from my buddy who even got his buck, so this one had to be stupid. All right, let's get to the weather cave and find Too Tall Tom. Find out what's going on in there. Tom? It is Friday. I didn't know if Amy Eiler knew that. I just want to walk you through this. Mother of two, you need to understand because your weeks all meld together. That you don't. When you're mother of two and two little ones who aren't in school, you wake up in the morning and your life is disheveled. School-ish.
They're in school-ish.
They're not in school. They're
not in kindergarten or above.
That's not school
what you're
yet.
saying.
That's not school.
Well, we call it school.
Okay.
And it technically is a school.
You can call it, if they get up and they come to the kitchen table, school.
It is a school, though.
The point I'm getting at is your life is a little more hectic than the average person's. Fair?
Yeah. I mean, I think so, but honestly, there are other people who have it much worse than me, so I cannot complain.
You weren't complaining. I was just pointing out that now, today, you've got a radio show to do, and yet you're doing mine, which
I know, it's fun.
But I was setting up to thank you.
Oh, thank you. You're welcome.
We used to be on the same wavelength.
The opportunity.
We used to be on the same wavelength, way better than what we are now. Way better. Folks, I don't know what you got going on this weekend. I do know this, that there's, quite frankly, there's a lot of things going on locally in every one of the areas that is listening to me right now. We're going into Thanksgiving week next week. I was visiting with someone about, supply problems, this, that. I said, shop at home. Shop at home. There are so many great places to go. I'm going to do some of that this weekend. Just get out there. I just got done telling you about Dakota Attitude, if you're listening. The great book that's out there. So text message coming in saying, I can't get this, can't get that. Maybe you don't want to get that, right? I mean, maybe it doesn't have to be exactly what you want. Maybe it can be something that you weren't even thinking of. These things are all over. It isn't just Mindak Market out at the mall where we've got good local products. They're around. They're around in each community. And what you do is go on each community's website. And you're going to find the place to go and find things that are good and local made. All right, when we come back, we're going to head to the Brookings Institute right after this. executive experience in philanthropic and public sectors addressing poverty, advancing inclusive economic development. Also, I'm looking at a couple of the pieces that he wrote, which I think you're going to want to take a look at. One's called Leveraging the Biden-Harris Climate Agenda and Sustainable Development Goals, which for us in the rural area, you drive around North Dakota. Look at the solar panels. Drive around Minnesota. Look at the solar panels. Look at the wind towers. There's all types of ways that a guy can take advantage of this in the rural area as well. Another piece that he wrote is Will Biden Deliver for Rural America? The potential of the proposed rural partnership program, which is one of the reasons that he really got my attention. Tony, good to have you back on News and Views.
It's great to be here. Thanks. And I don't know how many people are looking to cheat off me, but I was always happy to be hanging around and thinking about big issues with friends. So it's good to be here with you today.
If you kept me eligible for football, Tony, you were my guy. That's all I'm telling you.
Well, I played basketball and tennis. In fact, I played the minor leagues of pro tennis. So, but coming from a rural area, we didn't even have a tennis team at the high school I went to. So there you have it.
Which tells me you're playing pickleball now. Admit it, aren't you?
I'm not, but that's only because I have a knee replacement from having played tennis.
Okay. Tony, I asked you to come on. Excuse me, sir. I asked you to come on to talk a little bit about the climate agenda, the infrastructure bill, and how this is going to affect rural America. A lot of people listening to you right now, Minnesota, North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana. I mean, they're not always part of this conversation. And of course, in the partisan world we're in, many of the people that want to tell them the story don't get to tell them the story. So let's do it. I mean, how is this going to affect rural America?
So the House just passed the Build Back Better Act, just actually, less than an hour ago, I think. And I got to say, one of the things that's really exciting for me, for someone who's, from a rural area, and I'm from the rural Northeast, and has been working to look for ways in which federal policy could better support what's happening in rural and small towns across the U.S. There's a lot in there that could be really helpful and transformational for rural America. And, that combined with the infrastructure bill that's already passed and even some of the investments that have been made through the American Rescue Plan, I think there's an emerging rural agenda here with resources that are also being offered in a different way than they might have been in the past. They're really looking to invest in people at the local level in their own local solutions. It's not just like hey, this is what you got to do, or we've got this program that's focused just on this one thing. But, in the Build Back Better Act that was passed this morning, there was a program specifically called the Rural Partnership Program that, we wrote about, as you said, $1 billion that's really just directly meant to invest in local communities and their own solutions and ideas that they have for, their ongoing rural development and prosperity. That's exciting. It's not all done yet, but there's a lot in there. I think that that's starting to emerge from the federal government that could be really useful in rural areas.
Explain to people what your vision, for lack of a better way of putting it, would be of how you see this potentially playing out. What the money can be used for, what the rural needs are. Give me an example or two.
So what's really interesting about this particular program that's in the House passed version is that it's really flexible money. So it can be used for a lot of different things. And that's been one of the criticisms we've actually had of a lot of programs that are meant to support rural community and economic development. They're for one thing, right? And so you've got to wade through a maze of all of these narrow programs that are all meant to do one thing and package them together, because a community might need some investments in infrastructure, things like water and sewer or roads, but they're going to want to combine that with some support for small businesses and entrepreneurialism that would be able to take advantage of the kinds of improvements that might be made physically and you need broadband, and you need other things to be able to support, and you need financial capital that might be able to support those sorts of things. So it's like a holistic package that's necessary, not necessarily just one thing or another thing. And that's what this particular program is meant to do, be really flexible, multi-year grants that can enable a couple of communities working together or some partnerships at the local level saying, we can apply this in many different ways for what we really need. And that's the other part, right? Like, you were just talking about where your listeners are listening from. Their reality is much different than folks in the Northeast or folks in the Southeast. So we're leaving it more up to the local communities themselves to define what it is they need, rather than for the government to come in and say, here's what we think you need, and here's some money that if you will do what we're asking you to do.
But Tony, was there any strings attached at all? And let me give you an example of how you might get pushback, you might get blowback on this. If you put this money in the hands of the North Dakota legislature and say, all right, do what you want. You know what your needs are. The next thing you're going to see is them trying to build a coal plant somewhere or invest in a coal. Do you see what I'm getting at? I mean, that whole total freedom could back up on the state of North Dakota, though, with the type of legislature we have.
Yeah. So first off, the money, at least the way it's proposed in the Build Back Better Act that was passed this morning, will not go through the states. It will go directly to local communities themselves. And that could be, a combination of local governments, but also local nonprofits, university, community colleges, other kinds of institutions that are, directly in the local towns and municipalities that want to take advantage of it. I do think that there are going to be a couple of different, and I think it has to be fairly open-ended now, but as the program gets designed and resources get made available, I do think that there will be, and because it will be competitive, but there will be some policy parameters or objectives that would be attached to it. Issues around equity. How do you get, parts of the community that actually aren't doing well or sometimes aren't part of the decision-making for these kinds of programs? How do you make sure that they're actually part of the decision-making and are going to benefit from what the money might be used for? I do think that there will be a perspective on climate and how to make sure that there is protection of natural assets and resources, that you're not going to go backwards on pollution and things like that. I mean, I'm certain that there will probably be some guardrails put up if and when the money gets designed and the programs put in place.
So, Tony, when you look at what's happening in rural America right now, the dirty little secret nobody wants to talk about is there's money out there. There's money out there, and yet it still seems as though the federal government is trying to put more money out there in certain people's hands. When, in the world you live in, is that part of the conversation? When does that stop?
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking at this primarily through the lens of like places versus people, and certainly there's been an expansion of social programs and money getting into people's hands. But I think that to go parallel to that, I think we need to also be looking at ways in which we're investing in places so that places can remain healthy and sort of thriving over a period of time. That was in the infrastructure bill, everything from roads and clean water, but also a focus on clean energy and broadband that I think is going to be important for places themselves. Those are kinds of investments that actually take time both to finance and bring benefit. So I do think you're going to continue, and that's what I think is the interesting part of even what's in the Build Back Better plan as well. There's been a lot of focus on the social portions of it that are more at the household and the family level, but I think there's also some real investments that I think communities and local municipalities and jurisdictions and local community organizations have been asking for a long time. And I think it's those kinds of investments which actually haven't been happening in rural communities over the last 10 or 20 years. It's been more all the money getting to people to enable their families to sort of make do, but it hasn't been combined with the investment in places and what places need and communities need to be able to continue to be healthy and protect the quality of living over time. And that's what I think is interesting about the kinds of legislative actions that have happened, and what, provides an opportunity for this to sort of change the trajectory of some communities over a longer period of time.
I always use this analogy, Tony, and it's true. It's exactly, in my mind, what you just talked about. In 1972, everybody in my little town of 100 people named Matador had a well, and they had a septic system, each house, right? And then everybody, some of the town leaders said, you know what, there's some grant money out there. Let's build a water system and a sewer system. And they got beat up by some of their neighbors. They're like, we don't need that. What are we doing? It's going to, all this. And there were federal grants available for it. And can you possibly imagine that town now without a water system and a sewer system? And our fathers and mothers did that. And that's just because I'm old. To many people, it's our grandfathers and our grandmothers did that. And so this is an opportunity. This is there for the generation I'm in and the generation below me to do what my parents did. And to me, that's what you just described, Tony. That's what you said.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, what's interesting to me too is that it is a potential bridge to sort of what we all understand is likely the economies of the future, right? Yeah. Broadband is extremely important right now for many places across America, many rural places across America, because they don't have the kind of the affordability and the access that's necessary. But even, you mentioned some issues around just the environment and natural resources and climate. And, making the transition to sort of cleaner energy and cleaner power is also can be an economic boon as long as policy focuses that way and makes sure that people are going to benefit from it. And I do appreciate at least the initial signals coming from the administration and Congress, frankly, about trying to do that intentionally. Yep. It's not just about, for example, the climate change agenda is not just about, hey, we got to get, emissions down. But if we're going to get emissions down, that's great. But we've got to make sure that communities and jobs come along with that as well.
Agreed.
And I think that's a really important agenda.
Tony, always good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Tony Pippin. Let's get to the weather cave and visit with Too Tall Tom and get our forecast. Tom? Now you're spoiling me, Eric. Now you are. All right. It is Friday, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to say this. The Build Back Better plan just passed through the U.S. Congress. It's headed over to the Senate. It will not look the same. It won't. There'll be more negotiations. But you got to admit this. The infrastructure bill passed, signed into law, bipartisan. Now Build Back Better. He gets this through. I'm sorry, but Joe Biden's winning. because it was a bipartisan bill that Joe Biden was able to get through. A bipartisan piece of legislation that's going to do a whole lot of good out there that Biden was able to get through. And now there's the Build Back Better plan, which it's not final. It's going over to the Senate. But if he gets that through, these things 20 years from now, 30 years from now, how are they going to hold up and what are they going to look like? Well, on Fridays, when we're able to make this happen, we get a chance to visit with Bill Anderson. And Bill has a historic perspective when it comes to this country like none other. He understands it. Bill, when you look at major pieces of legislation that define presidencies and actually completely change the country in so many ways, what do you think of?
Well, Joel, we can look way back. The American plan, that was Henry Clay's plan from back in the 1820s to build a highway from the East Coast into the central part of the country, which was then the Western frontier, Kentucky and Tennessee and Ohio and in that area. And so it was a big investment, but it opened up the country, and just with the people, the influx of people, and the production, the agricultural production and the industrial production that came after that, made that investment, made the country boom. And probably the next big thing after that would have been during the Abraham Lincoln presidency, the Homestead Act and the Transcontinental Railroad Act, which just expanded the economy of this country tremendously. And after that, we go to FDR, the New Deal programs, the public works programs that built highways, built dams, built bridges, built all kinds of public infrastructure that needed building, and a lot of it is the stuff that we're needing to fix now, are the things that were built 75, 80 years ago under Franklin Roosevelt. And after that, probably the next big thing would have been Dwight Eisenhower's Interstate Highway Program, which was also a national defense project, but that basically restructured our country and remade the cities of our country and expanded them tremendously, because the interstate highway, of course, was originally built so it didn't go through the center of the city. But what happened, and what we've seen happen here in Fargo and Grand Forks and Bismarck and elsewhere, is once that major transportation artery was built there, the city grew out around it. So there's certainly historical parallels there to what's going on now. What's going to happen now with the infrastructure bill in particular is going to just improve our transportation, our communication, those kind of things. Do the airport modernization and renovation that needs doing. We're poised for some big changes in how we do business in America, and we're also with the Build Back Better bill. When that ends up passing the Senate, which it will do, probably not in the same form that it left the House, but it will pass the Senate. It'll go back to the House and be be passed and adopted. But just as some of the things that Roosevelt started, like Social Security and some of those things that changed the relationship between the national government and individual people, this bill, too, is going to do that, only on steroids, I think, because it's going to be affecting not just with Social Security and things like that, but also our education, early childhood education, health care, many of those things. So we're poised for big changes, and who knows where it's going to end up. We don't know. There's always the unexpected consequences and the unintended consequences that result from these things. And maybe 50 years from now maybe we'll be unhappy with some of it, just like some people are still unhappy with the New Deal and want to reverse it. They're a little late coming to that.
You think?
But I'm sure that 50 years from now there'll still be people standing there on the floor of the Congress yelling about socialism and all the rest of it. But this really is a huge boost for our capitalistic system. It's not a government takeover of these things, but it's a government boost and a government push in a certain direction to direct investment and to direct development in a way that the Congress deems to be in the best interest of the country.
Yeah. So, Bill, you used the word socialism, and that was my next question from a historical background. I saw a quote from Harry Truman, who cited programs that the government involved itself in, Social Security, those type of programs. He said they were all called socialistic programs. You saw Bob Dole at one point talk about how he didn't support what happened with Medicare, and now he admitted he was wrong about that. I guess my point is this: in the little bit of time I realize I have left, but when you look at these programs, how is the word socialism and socialist ranked in there when it comes to historic background?
Well, socialism is it's a big bugaboo. It's a big scare word in American politics, but it's nonsense. I mean, socialism is an economic theory in which government owns the means of production. This, what we're doing now is not a government takeover. It's not government taking over the means of production. It's not government taking over transportation, but it is government making investments in certain areas so that capitalism can work better. And that's I don't know. That's the way I see it happening anyway.
Well, ask yourself this, Bill. Take a look at where we're at with a gas pipeline coming from the oil range to eastern North Dakota and to a number of cities that the government is paying for. That isn't the oil companies paying for it. That the government is paying for that pipeline. By sheer definition, is that socialism?
Well, I would say no. It's not by the pure definition because the government isn't telling private industry that they have to put gas in that pipeline, and it's not saying that this is the only pipeline you can use, but it's saying we, the people, have decided that it's in the best interest of us, the people, to have this pipeline so that private companies can use it to transport their product from the place where it's now being wasted to where it can be used. And that's not socialism. That's assisting capitalism. So.
Yeah. Interesting. Bill, always good to talk to you. You know, I am so glad you're no longer practicing law, because if I had to pay for all of this by the hour, it would be very expensive for me. So go ahead, Bill.
One of these days, Joel, we're going to meet in the Lariat Bar, and you will pay.
In Rutland, North Dakota. Sounds like the worst it's going to be as a burger. But thank you, Bill. I love talking to you, man. Appreciate it.
Take care, Joel.
Bill
Bye-bye.
Anderson, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get to the weather cave and find Too Tall Tom Szymanski. Tom? Farm organization. Also, the North Dakota Association of Rural Electric Cooperatives, an indispensable network of North Dakota's electric cooperatives. Also, Pfeiffer's Auction, Realty, and Land Management, the industry leader in helping you buy or sell your land, equipment, and managing your farm. Check them out at Pfeiffers.com. Nilson Brand Law, from the boardroom to the courtroom. Nilson Brand Law is committed to your success. And Broadband Association of North Dakota, providing reliable, high-speed broadband internet from your local technology and telecommunications companies. The phone lines are yours. We're going to end up with calls right here and text messages at 1-800-880-5346 or 35270. All right. My turn. Friday. When was it? Thought it just came to you. All right, I've got a friend that I work with in the studio. He told me it's just football. He doesn't think it's just that would be the voice of Too Tall Tom Szymanski.
By the way, only 3 days till Monday.
You walk, good Tommy. He walks in here. Eric, what did he have as his face mask when he walked in here?
It's green and gold with a big G on it.
Green Bay Packers face mask. It's just football. I'm not even thinking about the game. Pants on fire. You liar.
I'm not obsessing about it. I mean, I shouldn't say I wasn't thinking about it, but I don't go through every minute of the day saying, oh, my God, the Vikings are going to beat us on Sunday.
Here's the thing. I haven't thought about it once today either.
Oh, come on. Yeah, whatever. You'd make a great weatherman.
Who's going to win that game, Tommy?
Well, okay.
Break it down.
I think it's going to be close. Every division game's close. And I've got to say, I think the Packers are going to win, but it's going to be by a field goal, which, if it does happen, you're going to win your bet because I'm giving you 3.5 points. So I will gladly win the game and lose a bet in that case.
Tom comes in here for all the announcers, ladies and gentlemen, and you probably see it on our YouTube broadcast now, but he comes in and he brings a sheet so that people can look at the sheet and say things like tomorrow partly to mostly cloudy, a high of 36, right? So he's giving us crib notes. He walks in, and I said, hey, we call you at home 5.5. Yeah. What did you say to that?
I just said, what do you want? Me by 5.5, and you say that's as many points as I should give you. But I'm going to give you 3.5.
I know.
The Vegas line is like 2, right? 2.5.
I thought it was 1.5.
Yeah, it's surprisingly close to a pick-em in Vegas.
I am surprised it's that close. Aaron Rodgers is back. They've been dominant. I mean, I'm sorry.
He has a toe injury. Do you know that?
Good.
He missed practice. He missed practice Wednesday.
Tom, you've been around the game. You're a former Division I college athlete. How many times things are spun like that? So it's like, hey, Rodgers got a toe injury. Exactly.
Well, maybe he's hurt.
Oh, come on. Come on. I'm not falling for that crap.
It's going to be a close game. I don't see any team beating the other one by like 14 or anything like that. I just don't see that.
I want to know how an hour or two, for that matter, Saturday night. You say you don't think about it, but a bunch of bull. I want to know how you and the very lovely Janelle deal with this because she's a diehard football fan,
right?
Diehard Viking fan. Mm-hmm. You came from Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. You own how many pieces of Packer clothing do you own?
Countless.
Exactly. But I don't think about football.
Well,
but how do you two live together?
I wear underwear
Packer?
every day, but I don't think about my underwear all the time.
See, so how many?
We bet dinner every game.
You do
a dinner out, and the loser has to buy the other one a dinner at his or her chosen place.
During the game itself, how do you deal with each other?
We just kind of try to avoid conflict. We watch it together, but we just don't say a lot. One of us may laugh once or twice, but there's no doubt she wants her team to win. I want my team to win.
Three of my best friends, diehard Packer fans.
Yeah.
I have Viking Packer parties all the time, but the Vikings were on a roll for that period of time, and I think we won 3 years in a row. And they signed a bar napkin, saying we will never watch another Viking Packer game at the home of Joel Heitkamp. And we framed it. It's behind my So
I do make a point of not cheering too loud when my team does something good, nor do I make a point of cheering too loud against her team. I try to be respectful.
I will tell you, as somebody who's had the Packers dominate us, he's very cordial when he wins. And I hope you don't even have to worry about that. Tommy, have a good weekend, buddy.
All right, good luck to you.
You didn't mean that either. Good ride with you, folks. See you on Monday.